Back when I was working a full-time job, I remember coming home from work every evening just exhausted. All of the time. I wanted to do so many things, work on my content, start a small business, spend more time with my friends and my family. But most of my evenings were just me on bed, either scrolling or watching Netflix. And I know that a lot of you guys go through this too. You spend your work day dreaming about your free time, but when you get that free time, you're just too exhausted to do anything else besides scrolling. But today, we are going to fix that. So in the last year of me working a full-time job, I spent a lot of time establishing a system that allowed me to use my evenings to support the life I want to live instead of wasting them away. It's a system that works with Indian jobs. It's a system that I use to this day. It's the very system that I used to set up this YouTube channel to start my small business. And I know that it's a system that can work for you too. So in this video, I'm sharing the 9 shifts that I made that completely transformed my evenings and helped me achieve my goals. Starting off with the realistic changes that you need to make. If you do these, the rest of your evenings become a lot simpler. Number 1 is moving closer to work. The commute, I think, is one of the worst parts of working a full-time job. Back in 2018, I got so frustrated with traveling 70 to 90 minutes one way for my job that I decided to look for an apartment close to my office. It wasn't the biggest place, it was not in the fanciest neighborhood, but it was just 15 minutes away from my place of work, and that made such a huge difference in the amount of time I had left after coming back home from office. I used to get off work at around 7 p.m. Earlier, I would reach home by 8:39 p.m. depending on the traffic. But after shifting my house, I was home by 7:30 p.m. max. And as a result, I became more regular with my workouts, I had more time to hang out with friends, and on 2 days of the week, I also started working on freelancing gigs. If you can, this is the single biggest shift you can make for your time and energy in the long term. Because if you're coming home already exhausted from a 90-minute commute, you will have to sacrifice a whole lot more to be able to utilize your evenings. Now, another big reality of having time after work is actually having a job where you get time after work. I am not shading high pressure jobs, I'm not shading big brand names, but if your current role is taking up most of your evenings, your weekends, and whatever is left of your focus, then I'm sorry to tell you that there is not going to be any energy left in your tank to do anything else. So this, I think, calls for some self-reflection. You need to decide how important a job role is to your life goals, and then decide if it is worth spending so much of your time in that role. When I first started working, my first job was at a newspaper. So while we didn't have a traditional 9 to 5, our shift used to start at like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. and used to get over well beyond midnight. And this was actually one of the worst things that happened for my ambition, my goals, my health. So 1.5 years in, I actually quit. And I made a very, very conscious choice to never work in that space again. After that, I worked in roles that were pretty much 9 to 5, 9 to 6 actually, because there's no 9 to 5 in India. And that shift really, really helped because it helped regularize my routine to a huge extent. Another thing that really helped me reclaim my energy during my job itself, and this is going to sound controversial, is not giving 100% at work every single day. Now, unless you're working your absolute dream job where you know you do not want to do anything else after you get back home, this is a hack that will transform how you use your energy. The way that I used to think about jobs, and I still do to this day, is that they are a paycheck. It's a transactional relationship. Your value in a company is limited to what you can do for them. I'm not saying that you should not work hard, but there is a difference between working hard to further your goals and selling your soul to the organization. A job is a part of your life, not your entire life, no matter what the hustle culture gurus tell you. Your job is there to help you support your lifestyle, not to replace it. And once you understand that difference, you are able to detach from the role and treat it just as work. And this means you are also able to manage your energy during your workday so much more efficiently. So when I say do not give your 100% every day, I mean that in most scenarios, you will get your work done even if you function at a 70 to 80% of your maximum energy expenditure. It is the smart and efficient way to work, and it also leaves enough energy in your tank to focus on other things once you get back home. Now, these are the 3 changes that I think will have the biggest impact on your energy levels during your evenings. But what if you cannot move closer to work? Or what if your job is so demanding that it leaves very little time and energy once you're back home? In this scenario, I think the time before you leave your work and the time on your commute can act as great time blocks that put you in the zone for other important things that you want to focus on. So start by figuring out how you can actually use your time after work. So one of my friends who works in this big MNC in Mumbai also freelances with a teaching platform to help students crack interviews for one of the best B schools in the country. He passed out from that B school, so now he's imparting knowledge on how to crack the interview. Now this gig is something that he does on 2 to 3 nights of the week, and it takes a substantial chunk of his time. So instead of taking the local train for an hour and a half, then reaching home and then doing this, on the nights that he has these calls scheduled, he actually takes them in office or in a cafe near his office right after work. He spends 90 minutes doing this work and then he heads home. So by this time, the trains are also less crowded, there is less traffic, and he has already finished all of the work on the additional project. So when he reaches home, his mind is not preoccupied, he can spend time with his wife and his kid and just relax. Depending on what your schedule is like and what additional gigs or projects you want to undertake, you can actually save time if you switch from your day job to this project right there in office or near office. You're already in work mode, putting in an extra hour is a lot easier and a lot more energy conducive. Now this is something that can apply to other things also that you want to do after work. So maybe you want to go to the gym, maybe you want to go for a hobby class, maybe it's just meeting somebody else for dinner. Instead of wasting that prime time real estate after work just commuting home, you can use that time to do these activities. You can find places near your office or somewhere in between your office and your house where you do this and then you head home. Now, when you actually get to commuting and going back home, especially if you've got a long way back home, you can use that commute time to your advantage. So if you have a 30 to 90 minute journey, I'd suggest getting in a quick nap, especially if you travel by cab or by metro. This is very, very helpful. If you're driving, obviously you can't do this. I have done this every single time I took the metro back from work. I used to hold my bag, just take a quick nap. Even just 15 minutes is such a refreshing break and it resets your mind for when you get home. And if you're somebody who cannot sleep or if you're somebody who's driving, listening to relaxing music is a great idea. Anything that helps you sort of decompress and lower down that noise that is going on in your brain is very, very helpful. The idea is to give your nervous system a breather. However, with everything being said, rest does not mean switching off your awareness completely. Stay alert, be safe, but also let your mind breathe. Now this brings us to finally what to do when you get home. The first thing to do is start with a self-care ritual. The biggest mistake that most people make after coming home is jumping straight into what's next, whether that's chores, maybe it's cooking your dinner, maybe it's productivity, maybe it's pressure, or maybe you just plop on your sofa and start watching TV. But your brain does not operate on an on and off switch, right? It needs a signal that the day has shifted, that the time has shifted, that your work is done and you're now in recovery mode. Personally, what I like to do as soon as I come back home from somewhere is I'll change into my pajamas, I will wash my face, I will do my skincare, I will put on some very soothing background music while I'm doing all of this, and that kind of helps me get into the rhythm of my home life as opposed to just constantly going with that go, go, go energy, right? So you can shower, you can change into your softest clothes. So the idea is to do it slowly and not rush through the entire thing because you're signaling to your brain that you're relaxing, there's no urgency, there's no pressure, just a gentle shift. When you're able to implement this self-care thing correctly, these habits stick for life and they become this very tiny portion of your life that's just reserved for you. And I think that helps a lot. It helps with the mindset shift a lot. And trust me, you do not need more than 15-20 minutes to do this. After you're done with your decompression ritual, I want you to take a 60 to 90 minute break from all decision making. 90 minutes is ideal, but on days that you don't have 90 minutes, at least 60 minutes. This is the most impactful thing that you can do for your mental health and your nervous system once you're back home. So all day, your brain has been in decide, go, 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 like that sort of state, right? What to say, what to prioritize, what to eat, how to respond. So by the time that you're home, you've probably made 30,000 micro decisions already. If you keep continuing, on some days you'll be able to go, but if this is the pattern that is there in your life, you're going to burn out very, very quickly, right? So instead of continuing that decision-making cogwheel when you're back home as well, you need to break the pattern and give yourself space to recover. Do things like listening to calming music, watching TV if that's relaxing to you, eat your food, talk to your family. The aim is just to not make decisions, right? You might think that 90 minutes is a lot of time, but this one chunk can speed up your productivity and efficiency when you get back to your decision-making mode after this break. Within this 90-minute break, I also want you to give yourself time to scroll. But You only do this if you have not been scrolling throughout the entire day. If you're somebody who's hooked to your phone all of the time, you might want to start with this 21-day challenge where we talk about how to break your scrolling addiction. But if you're somebody who already has a handle on your phone usage, give yourself 15 to 30 minutes once you get back home to scroll and unwind. Make sure you set a timer for this, otherwise it's very easy to get sidetracked. This way you're not avoiding anything, but at the same time you're also letting your brain exhale before it re-engages. Now, if you're somebody who's questioning what's the difference between just scrolling randomly and doing this, I want you to read this article that you see on screen. The link is going to be in the description. It talks about how intentional distraction is a form of recovery as long as it has a start and an end for you. Now, finally, after you've recovered somewhat from the exhaustion, you are fed, you're relaxed, it is time to show up for whatever it is that requires your focus. Maybe it's a side hustle, maybe it's a business that you're starting, maybe it's your kids' schoolwork, maybe it's just time with your partner, right? How I did this when I was working a full-time job was set aside 2 hours of focus time and then sit and get done with that chunk of work in that time. So you can use the Sessions app nowadays. You can see it on screen. It's super simple to use, but it's also very effective. It's like a Pomodoro timer, but you can set the chunk of time that you want to focus on manually. If you don't want to use this, just a timer on your phone works too. The idea of having a ticking clock is that it pushes you to complete the task at hand in a stipulated time frame. So for instance, when I had to work on my scripts and ideas, I would set aside 2 blocks of 1 hour each with a 10-minute break in between. I would spend the first hour working on ideation and the second hour working on a few scripts or outlines. You can of course increase or decrease the amount of focus hours you want to have depending on your schedule and the time you actually have. And here's something that you can add once you are done with the work. Reward yourself afterwards. Watch that show, eat your favorite dessert, go for a walk if you want, call somebody you love, because this signals to your brain that all of this effort was worth it and it preps you better mentally for the next day. So let me give you a few examples of how this works in a real life scenario, okay? Scenario 1 is you live close to your work. So let's say you live 15 minutes away from your place of work. You get off work at 7 p.m. So by 7:15, 7:30, you are home. You take a quick shower, you decompress for an hour. By about 8:30, you are done with your dinner, you're done with your decompression. And then from 8:30 to 10:30, you have a chunk of time where you can do focused work, focus on the project or the freelancing gig or any other side business that you want to start, and that gives you enough time to do this. After 10:30, you can still have like another hour where you rest, relax, watch TV, and then you go to bed. Scenario number 2 is where you live 60 to 90 minutes away from your work. So in this case, let's say that you get done with work by 7 p.m. and you are working on a couple of different freelancing projects or you're working on a side business. So instead of going home right away at 7 p.m., you put in another 60 to 90 minutes right there after work. You maybe stay back in office, maybe you go to a cafe in your office, and here you sit and work on that freelancing gig or on that side project for 60 to 90 minutes. So by this time, it's about 8:30. And then at 8:30, you take a cab, you take the metro, you take the local, however you commute back to home. You take that, you reach home in 60 to 90 minutes, you have your dinner, you shower, you spend some time with your family, and you go to bed. So the points that I've covered in this video are like a mix and match thing. You have to mix and match what matches with the scenario that you're currently living. If you can move closer to work, that can be one of the best things that you do for yourself, obviously. But you have to remember that you can wake up one day and choose to live differently. You can choose to live in alignment with the life you want to have. And your evenings are a huge part of that life. They don't have to be a checklist, but you also don't have to waste them doom scrolling and watching Netflix. No matter how far you live from work, you can take out an hour and a half to work on your side projects. And I hope that this video gives you an idea of how you can structure your evenings to be more in line with your goals. I know that these are easy enough that you can pick one small thing and start tonight itself. And if you're wondering, how do I build these small habits into something that's consistent without burning out? I recommend you go watch this video next, where I talk about building slow systems that protect your peace and rewire your everyday life from the inside out. And I'm going to see you guys very, very soon in another one. Bye.